Hey, welcome everybody. I'm glad you're here. I just wanted to let you know, for those that are watching live, of course, you subscribe to the channel. If you're watching after this was live and uploaded to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and like the videos. It sure helps a lot. And I've noticed because of COVID-19, a few weeks ago, I started doing these live shows 3 times a week. They're starting to get a little bit of traction, pardon the automotive pun. So thanks for that. So what's going on? Yeah. What happened last night? Got an email from Kia. They're pulling their cars from the press fleet. So we're down Kia, but we're up Nissan, which is good. So they're back in the game. If you want to do a super chat where you pay to have your question answered, feel free, please. It's not free, but feel free to get your question in there. We already have one on the line already. Multiple Scoregasm. Pretty good name. I like that. Hi from Moncton, New Brunswick. Motormouth fan for life. Thanks for that. Best bang for the buck. A Civic Si or a Jetta GLI. What would you buy? Please don't say Mazda because they're crappy service department. Low return customer rate. Okay, so between the Si and the GLI, these are both excellent choices. Now, of course, you're probably going to get the manual transmission on either one of them. So we're going to compare those. If you're thinking of an automatic, then it's going to be GLI. It's not offered in the Si. They're both really good cars, and they're both right around the same price, right around $30,000 Canadian. There's nothing to dislike about the only criticism there is of the Si. It's what's called rev hang. Do you know what that is? When you're driving along in a gear, you accelerate and then you put the clutch in and then you go to change gears. The revs hang, they don't drop automatic like you typically go, What happens is it goes, doesn't drop. So that rev hang is what it's called, can be a bit frustrating for some people. Here's what I suggest. You get out there and you try them and see which one you like. They're very similar, similar horsepower, pretty much. No, the GLI has more power. I think the GLI is bigger. But the thing is, they're both great choices. Excellent cars, by the way. You're barking up the right tree. Hamed said, Kia for the last 2 months has oversold Hyundai in Australia. They come with market-leading 7-year warranty. I personally think they're better looking than Hyundai. Well, you know what? I'm not going to disagree with you. I personally think, like, style is, everything is personal. I prefer the direction that Kia is going over Hyundai. The perfect example is the Telluride versus the Palisade. We have, I don't have a picture up here, but we have the Palisade. We're going to be shooting it tomorrow, Andrea and I. It won't be up for another week, though, because we have some other vehicles that are coming out on the channel. But I think the Telluride looks better. I think that the Forte looks better than the Elantra. I kind of agree with you. Warranty is going to be a big contributing factor, especially now that we're into an economic downturn. Brands that offer value, for example, Mitsubishi here in the Canadian market has the 10-year warranty. That will be attractive to some people because they don't want to worry about any repairs. Brands like Kia and Hyundai will do better in a market downturn because they offer more value. Since someone might have paid a bit of a premium to buy like a Toyota or something, now we'll start to look at the Korean brands as an alternative. But yeah, I agree with you. I agree with the styling. Hey, Zach, Genesis dealers mark them as no haggle dealership. That's true. You buy the cars here in the Canadian market. It's not the same in the US, by the way. Genesis dealers do a direct sort of marketing. You buy the car online. It's fulfilled at a dealership, but pretty much the whole process is done online. Is it the case for every customer? Car Cost Canada did show MSRP equals invoice price for all Genesis products. Yeah, that's their plan. And Car Cost Canada, thanks for bringing it up, is the sponsor of the channel. If you are in the market for a car over the next couple of months, the world will be your oyster, friends. You are going to be able to get some great deals, and the best way to find out is to sign up. Go to carcostcanada.com, use the promo code MOTORMOUTH, become an expert member, open up the extra searches, look for specific models and trims, get the vehicles with the the best rebates, discounted interest rates, and all those kinds of things. All right. Going to go a little quicker because we are getting more people coming on, so I'll have to get into the questions a little quicker here. Next Gen Grand Cherokee is expected to ride on the same Giorgio platform as the Alfa Romeo Stelvio. Thoughts? I don't know, but I would suspect not. That platform that they have for the Grand Cherokee isn't that old, and you can take an existing platform and modify it and update it quite nicely. I don't know the answer to it. If I was running Jeep, I wouldn't change it. It's one of the strong points of the vehicle is it feels so well put together and does handle well and does feel rock solid. So I don't know the answer, but I would say no. What are your thoughts on the Genesis G70, the 2-liter turbo version? My 18 330 lease is due soon, so I'm looking for a similar car that I can keep long term this time. Here's the thing is, get the car and try it out for yourself. I know that Genesis is still doing the home valet delivery for test drives. They come make sure the car is, wiped down and sanitized and all that kind of stuff. So what I suggest is you drive it. What's the number? 255 horsepower? That's not bad. That's right in line with your 330. Similar size. If you don't need the extra space in the back seat, because the back seat is smaller, but there's a lot of value. And here we are again coming back to the same conversation. So people are going to start to look for something similar to what they had or an updated version, but maybe some value in the equation. And that's where brands like Genesis will do well, Hyundai and Kia, other brands like that offer a lot more value. So my advice to you is try the car and see if you like it. It's a very nice machine. I think it would be sort of on par with what you've got with your BMW. The thing is with BMW, Mercedes, Audi, is they give you the handcuffs. When you own one of their cars, or you lease one of their cars especially, and most people lease, I got an email from Dennis DeRosier, the leading auto analyst in Canada, saying 75% plus of premium cars are leased. So what's the one thing that BMW knows about your 2018 330? That it's coming up towards the end of the lease. And what are they going to do to get you to stay in the brand? They're going to sweeten the pie. They're going to say, we're going to give you a new one with the new platform, the new interior, the new everything. It's going to have more features, but it's going to be less per month. And the lease rate is going to be like almost 0%. So that's how they keep you in the brand. And it's cheaper for them to keep you in the brand than to try and conquest you from another brand. So say you've been driving a Mercedes-Benz for years, excuse me, BMW spends a lot more to get you to come into their brand than they do to try and keep you in the brand. How would you compare the X3 M40 and the Porsche Macan S in terms of driving pleasure, interior, and build quality? They're actually a very good comparison. So the M40i, I'm trying to remember what the horsepower is off the top of my head. I know the old engine was 335 horsepower. I think it's around 340. The Macan S has the Cayenne base engine, so the 3-liter turbo, but it has more power. So that engine is 335. I had to look it up. I drove the Macan S last summer in Newfoundland. I love going to Newfoundland. And you can watch the video online. And I drove the X3, but not with the inline 6-cylinder engine. This is a very good comparison. Both of them have been updated within the last year. Both of them have very strong engines. Both of them have above average build quality. And I would say that there's no real clear winner when it comes to interior. It's basically design and what you like about them. For example, the Macan has the screen that is touchscreen. The BMW has the iDrive controller in the middle. Which one do you prefer? As much as I love Porsche, I prefer a controller over a touchscreen because if you're OCD and gets fingerprints and dust on it, that we had an Audi for 4 years, never touched the screen, always used the MMI controller, and I loved it. It never ever cluttered up the dash. You just use this thing. So I like that about the BMW. I think it handles particularly well. Is it going to be better than a Macan S? I would say with the M40i, with the performance sport suspension, it's going to be pretty damn close. Interior-wise, if you're somebody that has kids and you're doing stuff with it, more than just yourself, the X3 is the clear winner. The Macan is small. It's a small vehicle. So same thing again. Get in them both, see which one you like. There is no wrong answer. These are very nicely, closely matched. I particularly like the current Macan S because it has the big screen, but it has the traditional buttons down the middle, like the old Cayenne. So that's what I like about it. They're both great choices. Have you had a chance to drive the 19 or 20 MX-5 with the limited slip differential? Just curious how much a difference this is from the earlier models without LSD and lower horsepower output. I have not had a chance to drive it. All I can tell you is that the MX-5 is a wonderful, wonderful car. Go and watch some other reviews of people who have driven it with the update. I'm not here to tell you I have. I'm not going to lie to you. But the previous one was fantastic. So I can only imagine it's going to be better. Now, is it worth the price premium they charge? And I think that the MX-5 is way overpriced, in my opinion. I think that the MX-5 is a great used car candidate, in my opinion. Because for the most part, it's a toy. It's not your primary mode of transportation. It sits in the garage most of the time. You take it out now and again. So for me, considering what they cost new, I would be happy to buy a used one. Now, if you're in a position where you can afford it and you don't give a damn and just let's get it anyway, so get the newest and the greatest. But all of the other ones, all of the MX-5s are great. And I've said it over a million times. If you've never driven an MX-5 Miata or a Miata, you owe it to yourself to drive one. It is hands down the most fun you can have on four wheels considering the size and the price. And don't let anybody tell you it's a chick car. It looks really good with a beautiful woman sitting next to you. Hey, Zach, I used to save all my allowance to buy car magazines. So spoiled now to get the info on the web. I was a big road and track fan back in the day. What was your go-to pre-internet? I was more of a road and track than a car and driver. I just like the name better. I don't know why. Road and track, car and driver. And that's back in the days when those magazines came out of California. Now they're all come out of Michigan, the same company, by the way. But I would suggest that, yeah, I read all of those magazines ferociously as a kid. Is odometer tampering still possible in recent used cars? I would say that if there is a chance for a criminal element to do something improper, yes, there's still a chance that they could tamper with it. I don't know how or why or when, but if there's an opportunity, criminals will get involved and change things. What I suggest you always do is get a Carfax report of a vehicle. The dealer should provide it to you for free. If they don't, then you'll have to pay for it. But get the Carfax and look at the intervals of when the car was in for service or anything, and it'll come up. And if you see a discrepancy and they flag it anyway, always look for that. So a Carfax is a good way to go. Hey, Zach, love the show. What's your opinion of the 19 Honda Civic Si Coupe? Great car. I think it's a wonderful car. The only issue you have with a Si Coupe is that in the used market, is there going to be much of a demand for, first of all, a coupe? Civic coupes are not selling, and an Si manual only is an even smaller market. So resale value might not be as great, but as a car to drive and fun factor, it's a wonderful car. Do you think it would have been better if BMW created an all-electric 3 Series instead of creating a brand new futuristic i4? Well, we're seeing this with all of the German brands. They're making their own, electric lines. So for Volkswagen, it's the ID line. In Mercedes-Benz, it's the EQ line. And BMW is going with the i3, i4, i8. So I don't know. I would have, if I was running BMW, made a 3 Series full electric car right after they came out with the ID3. That was their opportunity to get ahead of Tesla. But here's the thing. These car companies, the German brands specifically, will not make something if they can't make money at it. And they saw early on in the game that there was not money to be made making electric cars. Now that Tesla has forged ahead and made their cars very popular at a huge loss, well, now the Germans will come in and sell them at a profit. So Tesla is carrying $10+ billion in debt. The German manufacturers are flush with cash. You might not know this, but BMW ended 2019 with record profits. So the one thing about these car companies is they like to make money. And the one thing about these car companies in usual times is they can make a lot of money. So unlike Tesla that is willing to lose money on every car, those big brands will want to make money, and they let Tesla run away with it, maybe to their own detriment though. And now that lead is so far ahead, can they catch up? But they're going to catch up profitably. That's the difference. I would like to be a part of the show. How do I get involved? You know what, Stephen? This is a very good question. I was thinking of maybe trying to figure out a way that we could get some of you on live, whether it was through the phone or through Skype or Zoom. But maybe I should look into doing a Zoom chat and see if we can have people come on and ask questions. And then I'll feed it through the live chat. So I got to look into that. Never said I was smart, but I'll look into it. Do you think people will start electrifying vintage cars? We're already seeing that. Not a colleague of mine, an old neighbor of mine who now lives in California. He is a voiceover actor, and he had a cartoon in Canada, I always think syndicated around the world, called Being Ian, and his name is Ian Corlett. And he has a vintage Porsche 912 that has been electrified. And he made a very good point. When you get an old car and you take out all the mechanicals and you put an electric drivetrain, you basically have now a maintenance-free and trouble-free car. So the shell of the car is vintage and cool, but everything inside is just a battery, electric motor, and control unit. And he has a vintage 912 that looks like a vintage Porsche, but is fully electric, and there's got zero maintenance. So I think for resto mods is what they're called, you're going to start to see more electric. And I'm seeing them. I watch a lot of YouTube videos of old cars that have been modified, and that is a trend. Hey, we have another super chat here. Feel free to click on that. You see at the bottom of the chat window, the little dollar sign. If you start typing in there, you can get your chat to the top. From Mike Shaw, hey Zach, I used to own a 2010 Accord Cross Tour. You're the guy who bought it. This is the guy who bought it. I loved it, but I was in the minority. You got that right. What are your thoughts on the now defunct Cross Tour? So the Accord Cross Tour was a built-up Accord where the ZDX, is that what it was? The Acura one was a downsized MDX. So one was a down-rated utility and one was an up-rated car. So the Accord Cross Tour, the big problem with that was the roof line and the storage space, and it wasn't a particularly good-looking car. In my opinion, if they had come out with just more of like a shooting brake styled station wagon, it would have been good, but I don't think it looked good. I don't think the space was particularly that much more functional than other Honda vehicles that they sold, especially like things like the Honda Element that had a lot of storage on the inside. There's a perfect example of a brand that just lost their way when it came to having a market and then giving it away. So the Cross Tour wasn't it, but the Honda Element, that square thing, dog owners love those things. Their dogs can get in, they can wipe them down, they're easy to look after. They let that thing just die, and then they got rid of it instead of bringing out a newer, updated version of it. But I'm not sure what I can say about your Cross Tour other than the fact that I'm glad you liked it. I thought that the brakes were, remember the one clear thing I remember about driving that is the brakes were crappy. It was a bigger and heavier vehicle, but they didn't uprate the brakes, and that's what I remember about driving it. Any thoughts on the 2021 Kia Stinger refresh? Any news on the possible brand new 3.5 turbo that is supposed to be used for it and the other specs? Apparently it'll be similar to the G80. Now, I'm not sure that they are going to take their new premium engine that they have for the GV80 and put it in a non-Genesis car. They might. But, you know, they're not selling a lot with the 3.3 liter turbo, which is a fine engine. I think the 365 horsepower is more than enough for that car. I would like them to come up with an S or like an RS version of it and stiffen the suspension. I like the car other than I found the suspension too soft. So it's having a sportier version of it. So they have the GT. So the GTS would be put the S on the end, make it sportier. I think that is a vehicle that is going to be mildly updated with front and rear lights, that sort of thing. I don't think you're going to see a wholesale change on that car because it's a low volume car for them. They do not sell very many of them at all. Now it is a signature vehicle for them. It was a halo product when it came out and certainly got Kia a lot of attention. But I think they could do a sort of a mild facelift on it. Are they going to do the 3.5 liter turbo? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Heard rumor Toyota will be replacing the much maligned CHR with a crossover version of the Corolla to compete with the CX-30 and the Crosstrek. Well, that would be good. I think that there's room for another one. Somebody brought this up the other day. Like if you look at the utility lineup that Toyota has compared to other brands, they have some holes that they could certainly fill. For example, they've got the Highlander, but they don't have a smaller sort of something between the RAV4 and the Highlander. And there certainly is an opportunity for them, just going to turn the notifications down, for them to put another vehicle in there. They could have the CHR and even do something a little bit smaller because the CHR is quite big compared to a lot of these small like HRVs, a little bit smaller for sure. So I think that would be welcome. They already have the Corolla hatch. So to do a MX-30 style treatment to it is not out of the realm of possibility. Hey, look who's back. My second favorite handle on the channel, Huge Haggis. Huge Haggis is back. Toyota and Hyundai have both developed hydrogen cars. I'm intrigued with the technology, but can't see how this is a worthwhile pursuit given the push for EVs. Any information on this tech? The future forward is going to be like grandma's quilt on the bed, patchwork, everything put together from different things. Electric isn't perfect for everybody, and hydrogen isn't perfect for everybody, and efficient small combustion engines aren't perfect for everything. And diesel still has a place to play, especially for trucks. I really do believe that hydrogen has a place, especially if you can get some filling infrastructure done. Imagine if you had a small fleet of vans, like not a small fleet of vans, but a fleet of small vans, like sort of like minivan style vehicles, and you were doing deliveries all over the city, and you could fill them with hydrogen at a central filling station, and they could go 500-600 kilometers, but they're producing zero emissions. Now that is a perfect setup, right? What is it going to cost? That's one thing. And that might not be perfect. Like for a taxi, for example, a taxi is out all day and night for 12 hours. So usually a taxi driver picks up a car and they drive it for 12 hours. If you had a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, that taxi could be running for the 12 hours, could drive the 300 to 600 kilometers that they would typically drive in a shift, and it's running on pure electricity and produces zero emissions. So I think there's going to be a patchwork, and it's definitely technology for urban centers where there is filling infrastructure, similar to the way EVs are used, but for longer range without having to be down. Like you could come in with a taxi, you could fill it up with hydrogen and be out again on the road in 5 minutes, where with an EV you have to sit and wait for it to charge. Bruce, the road system in Vancouver is so bad. Getting from the Trans-Canada Highway to west of Dunbar was awful. Who designed the city? So that's UBC, the University of British Columbia. You know what's interesting, Bruce? When we were looking to buy our house, we looked over there. That's called Dunbar. And I'm glad we didn't buy a house in Dunbar. We live right in the center of the city, near the Cambie area. And when I used to work in television every morning, I used to have to drive all the way through. You'd have to drive all the way through the city and then out to the highway to go out to Burnaby. What happened in the 1970s? There was a big push for the city of Vancouver. It's the only city in North America, by the way, that does not have a highway. The city of Vancouver does not have a highway. When you come into the city of Vancouver, either from the south, the north, or the east, you can't from the west because that's the ocean, the highways stop, and then you get onto city roads. I used to be of the same mind as you. When I moved here from Ontario, I grew up in Toronto, where you have the Don Valley Parkway, the Queen Elizabeth Way, the 401, the 427, all the infrastructure you have in a major city. I was like, this is ass backwards. There's no highways. But then as I lived here now for close to 30 years, I've come to realize that it's one of the few things about Vancouver that they actually did right. Now, we need better thoroughfares to get people in and out of the city. But what you have is a very populated city with great urban areas that are walkable and great to live in. So that's the upside to it. But I agree with you, it can be a real pain in the ass. Eddie M, hey Zach, I just noticed most manufacturers offer small SUVs would look even better looking, just make them full size like the Seltos. Imagine a full size. Well, a lot of brands do sort of small, medium, and large utilities. Look at BMW. You know, the criticism of them is they all look the same, whether it's a X1, an X3, an X5, or an X7. It's just like, they're like Russian dolls. You just open them and there's a smaller version inside. So, you know, there's some themes you see with brands, but I don't think having them all the same is a good idea. Okay, I'm going to go down here and see what's at the bottom. All right. Okay. Hey, Zach, are cars targeted for young male buyers? Why are cars targeted for young male buyers always a flop? Everybody claims they love the Stinger, Supra, Evo, yet nobody puts their money down. Well, I'll tell you why cars that are targeted at young male buyers are a flop, because young males have no money to buy Evos, Supras, and Stingers. Most of the people who buy those are my age. I'm Gen X. I'm not a millennial. So people who have made a certain amount of money in their life, have bought their house, have started their families. Like when you're in your 20s, I think you're just looking back, you know, having lived through all those decades. Your 20s is a really tumultuous time. You're finishing school, you're starting your career, you're trying to make some money, you've moved away from your parents, you're trying to, you know, get ahead in the world, competing against everybody else. You're trying to get the pretty girl or guy to fall in love with you. Like your 20s is the shits, to be honest with you. And then when you get into your 30s, if you're in your 20s, I apologize. Then you get into your 30s, you maybe meet the girl down the street, you start to get a little success in your life, all those sorts of things, and you start to settle down a little bit. Might not be as much fun and as excitement as your 20s for nightlife and dating and all that, but you know, you start to hit the groove a little bit, but you're still, but then you meet the girl down the street, now you got to buy a house. Oh man, it's so expensive. We can't afford to live here. We're going to have to move out to the burbs. Oh crap, now we got to get 2 cars. We need to commute every day. You know, and then you get to your 40s. So it takes quite a while to accumulate any kind of money to go and buy these things. So that's the answer to your question. Most, not all, because there are some young guys who are, especially in the tech industry, have made a crap load of money. They can buy whatever they like. But most people, they can't afford them. But the thing is, car companies market to young people because it's easier to get an older person to buy a youthful car than to get a youthful person to buy an older car, right? That's the theory. So I remember being at, I don't know, being in so many car launches, and they have like young people dancing and playing music, and they have a DJ and the whole thing. And I said to the person I was sitting next, I said, not one of these people can afford this car. But that's who they market it to. That's how the car industry works. Market to the young, sell to the older. And the average car buyer, by the way, do you know what the average age of a car buyer is in the Canadian market? Pick a number. Average age. It's close to 50 years old, right? So think about that for a moment. Hey, Zach, 2020 BMW M340 with inline 6 or Audi RS3 with inline 5. What's your choice for fun to drive lease? MSRP exactly the same. BMW's larger size doesn't matter to me. Well, Paul, this one is easy. If it's not size, I would go for the RS3, just based on the fact that there's hardly any around. It's just so cool. The engine sounds fantastic. You would have a car that nobody else has. Plus, from what I understand, could you get it with a manual? I think you can, right? That would be a consideration. So the M340, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I did a review on the channel. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. But an RS3, that's cool. I would get the RS3. Now we have Paul Lindo, and then we have Jason Lindo right below. Are you related? Hello from Saskatoon. Is it necessary to follow dealer 6 months oil change intervals for my Mazda 3, or can I go longer? Do about 8,000 kilometers per year. Do not do what the dealer says. There's the least read book on the planet in your car. It's called the owner's manual. Open the thing on the right side, open that up. It's called the glove box. In there is a book. It's called the owner's manual. It's never read by anybody that owns a car. Crack that open. Smell the fresh virgin pages that nobody has looked through, probably not you. And in there, it will have the service interval for your car, the Bible for your car. Whatever it says in there is what you should do. I suspect the dealer is upping you on the oil change intervals to higher than what the book says. So crack open that book, read it, smell the fresh virgin pages, and if it says 5,000 kilometers, that's when you should change the oil. If it says 8, change it at 8. It might say 12. I don't know. And when your service advisor tells you that you should be doing it more often, go, look, this is what the guys in Japan say, not what you say. Your thoughts on the McLaren F1? Love the seating position. That's what I love about that. It's a cool first effort by them, I think. Vince is saying, looking at a Grand Cherokee SRT, any other vehicles that compare for the price? Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything. You're looking at premium cars. Now, it is a premium car. It's not cheap. You might want to look at like a GLE 63, something like that, but it's going to be a lot more money unless you're looking at a certified pre-owned, which might not be a bad way to go. But that kind of horsepower, that kind of vehicle, you could look for a used Cayenne, but there really isn't anything like it in the marketplace that I can think of right off the top of my head. You're kind of going now into premium brands. So, so you might want to consider a gently used 2-year end of lease car, like from Mercedes, BMW, or Audi. Not Audi. Audi wouldn't really have anything that competes against BMW and Mercedes, especially like an X5M, Mercedes GLE 63, or a Cayenne Turbo might be worth looking at. But really, it's kind of in its own little world, I believe. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Eric says, hey, Zach, do you think lower interest rates will apply to brand new models that come to market? I'm specifically interested in a 2021 Volkswagen GTI or GTE if this model comes to Canada. I don't think the GTE is going to come to Canada because they're going to want to push the full electric ID 4 when it comes. Here's the thing. What has the Federal Reserve? What is the Bank of Canada? What is the Bank of England? What have all of the central banks in the world done? They've basically brought interest rates down to 0. And then on top of that, they've done quantitative easing, which is buying assets back from the government. So printing money to keep the economy moving. So people are getting unemployment, they're getting loans for their businesses, all of the nonsense we're having to deal with this COVID thing. So interest rates are basically 0. One of the easiest ways for car manufacturers to gin sales is to offer those low interest rates to you. And often car companies will buy down the cost of the money even more. So they buy the money at 0.5 percentage point and they offer it to you at 0. So they're paying 0.5% to buy down that lease or finance rate. So I don't have a crystal ball, but if I was a betting man, I would bet there's going to be very low interest rates for cars starting right about now. And we're seeing it from the domestic brands. Same thing again. Go to carcostcanada.com, type in Motormouth as your username, not username, what is it? Yeah, type in Motormouth for the code, become an expert member and start to look at these things, maybe refresh and look at it as you get closer. So the GTI isn't here for another year and a bit, right? So summer, think August, September of 2021. Now typically, even though the economy might still be slow, if the car is in high demand, they might not need to gin sales, right? So this is what I'm saying. They do this for volume cars like a Tiguan. Yeah, they're going to gin sales on that. But on a GTI, there might be more demand than supply, and they might not need to. But if I was a betting man, interest rates are going to be lower. Ian Fu, you're a legend, Zach. One of the best in the business. Why not the best? Just kidding. Thank you for that. What are your thoughts on the 330 versus the A4? I I care quite a bit about handling, but ultimately want an all-rounder that can take a car seat. I think that the A4 is a great all-rounder. I walk the dog. I talk about this all the time because I walk my dog every morning with my wife. I walk past an A4 all-road. I looked at it and I thought, that is a nice car. I like that car. Same piece of advice I gave to other people. Try them both. See what you like. See what you think is a better for your situation. Take the car seat and put it in the back seat and see if it fits. Put the stroller in the trunk, see if it fits. Do you know how many people buy cars and don't do that kind of stuff? It's insanity. When I had 2 kids in car seats, I remember going into the BMW dealership. I can't remember what we were looking at, different cars, but I had the car seats, I had the stroller, the whole thing. The salespeople are looking at me, but you know what? I was buying the car. I was spending the money. It's my money. I want to try them out. So I really do like anybody who watches this. If it's the base Model 3 Series versus the A4, I like the A4. If you go up into the 340, that's a different story. I do like the inline 6. What was the vehicle you tested recently with a killer sound system? Somebody else, it might have been you, Paul, earlier, and you might have missed one time I mentioned it. I thought about this for a while. The new Revel audio system in the Lincoln products is sweet. They do a great job. Like, crank that thing up. I played reggae on it, the whole thing, and it just was distortion free. A lot of the brands have very good sound systems if you opt for the higher end versions. One I don't particularly like is I don't like the Bang & Olufsen system in the Audi cars. I don't think it's worth the extra money. I don't think the Burmeister system in the Porsche cars is worth the money at all. I think the Bose system that comes standard is pretty damn good. But that's a personal thing, so try them all out. But the Lincoln system is fantastic. What's up with new cars start-stop feature? Unless you are in constant traffic jams, the pennies you save at the pump don't offset the maintenance cost. These are all compliance things. You've got to remember, car companies don't just make cars for customers. Car companies make cars for governments. Governments make regulations and car companies jump through hoops to improve their fuel economy. For example, start-stop technology was invented and it reduces the fuel consumption of the car a little bit, so that's a compliance feature. For example, the new Ram 1500 has this air dam that automatically lowers down at certain speeds to make the front of the truck more aerodynamic. It reduces the amount of fuel used by a marginal amount. But when you're selling millions of those trucks over 5 or 7 years and you get basically judged on your fuel economy by the government, it all matters. Car companies don't just make cars for you and me. They make cars for government rules. And one of the things that you always hear is, oh my God, cars, they all look the same. They're so boring. Why does anybody do anything different? Because they have crash specific rules they have to adhere to, pedestrian rules they have to adhere to, light rules, all of these things. It's compliance. Trust me, if they didn't have to put it in there to reduce fuel consumption, they probably wouldn't. Hey, this is our Reed Shaker. Hello from the Kingdom of Jordan. All my hopes go to you and all Canadians. Thanks for your beautiful work. Stay safe. Well, thank you for that. That's my first ever from Jordan. We've had other viewers from in the area, so that's nice to see. We had somebody from Israel last time, so in the general vicinity. Hey, Zach, for about 40,000 plus taxes, CX-5 Turbo, Q3, or CPO Macan? Oh my God, that's a tough one. CX-5 Turbo, great product. Q3, pretty damn good. CPO'd Macan. The badge means a lot. That's a tough list. I don't know. Brand new car, full warranty. Now CPO'd, if you got a 2-year-old Macan, is going to have 4-year warranty. CX-5 will have 3-year warranty. The Audi will have 4-year warranty. So we're all apples there. Power, I think the CX-5 is going to have the most power, followed by the Macan and then the Q3, but the Q3 is the smallest. I really like the new Q3. I think the new Q3 is a fantastic car. They did a lot right with that car. I don't think there's a wrong answer here. The CP Macan, I mean, the badge appeal alone, it definitely means something. I'm not going to lie. I'm a snob. I like cars with nice badges on them. I'm like everybody else. And if you say I don't care, you're full of crap. Everybody likes to have a nicer car than their neighbor. Come on. So, I don't know. That's a tough one. You got good taste, okay? You've got good taste. Same thing again. Get out there, crunch the numbers, drive them all, see which one you like. 2011 Acura MDX or 2011 Highlander, helping a friend look for a cheaper used three-row SUV. Highlander. Highlander, Highlander, Highlander. For sure. You're paying MDX prices for basically a Honda Pilot. So if you really want to look for a cheaper three-row SUV, look at the Pilot, okay? Because the Pilot is the MDX without the Acura trim on it. But yeah, Highlander is a great product. It'll just deliver the mail all day long. Greetings from the prairies. Love these live shows. Keep up the great work. More power to your channel. And remember to remind all viewers to subscribe to your channel. I am. Well, thank you. That's a good piece of advice. Hit the subscribe and get more people watching the channel. What are car trends that you're seeing in the industry that you are not liking? Well, one of the problems is that we have too many trends in the car industry. Once one brand has something, they all have it. Now, one of the things that we're seeing is technology is shared by certain technology companies, whether it's Bosch or it's Siemens or whomever it is, a part supplier. They come to market and they say, hey, we've got this new thing. And then everybody has it, right? Think about the 48-volt mild hybrid. Okay, so I believe that's a Bosch system, is now being sold to car industry around the world. 48-volt mild hybrid systems. So we're seeing that. It's a trend I don't mind. The trend towards autonomous systems in cars is a trend I don't like. Like, I despise lane keep assist. I just think there's not really any of them that are any good. The exception being when you're on the full highway cruise control. The Hyundai and the Kia system, it's fantastic. So you set up the cruise control and then you drive along and the car basically drives itself. Same thing with the cruise system from Cadillac. So those are all sort of semi-autonomous. But the ones that when you're driving in the city and it's I hate that. First thing I do is I switch that off. I do appreciate the forward collision warning with the autonomous braking, because we've all fallen into this trap where you're looking down, trying to find your sunglasses. In the old days, it used to be looking at your phone, looking for a piece of gum, whatever, and then you look up and it's just red brake lights and you jam on the brakes and hope you stopped in time. Well, that is fantastic. That is something that is going to really save a lot of accidents. And funnily enough, in the province of British Columbia where I live, if you have a car with a forward collision warning and autonomous braking system, starting next year, I think you're going to save around $500 a year for having it. So the insurance companies know it does a good job. But lane keep assist, I absolutely detest. Another trend is towards the new shiny plastic on the outside. Same thing. Some company, whether it's PPG or one of the big paint companies, has come out with a paint finish that will be high gloss and won't scratch. So I don't know how they've done it, but now everybody has it on their cars and they're using it. And that's what you start to see as trends. Like the kick your foot under the rear bumper and the hatch comes up. That's a convenient thing to have, but that's one of the trends I don't like, is that whatever one brand does, they all got to follow. Nobody really stands out and does their own thing. They just follow everybody else. What do you think is the best overall option between the Model X, e-tron, and Jaguar I-Pace? Well, it comes down to budget, right? Like Model X is people have them, like them. Not exactly the best build quality compared to, say, the Audi, but a lot less expensive to buy the Audi, even though it's a very expensive car. I can tell you the best deal of the bunch is going to be the Jaguar I-Pace, because they can't give the frickin' things away. So if you just want to go for the best overall option when it comes to an electric car and price, the Jag is going to be it. Our inline six-cylinder is going to trickle into mainstream cars. Seems reasonable since everyone is going to inline fours. Well, inline fours have always been inline fours. That hasn't changed. They don't have, there's no V4s. But we're starting to see that. Somebody mentioned it the other day that Mazda is coming with an inline 6-cylinder engine, which makes me believe that there might be something at play here. You know, with the Supra using a BMW inline 6-cylinder engine, and Mazda just now announcing an inline 6-cylinder engine for the next generation Mazda 6. So Mazda, big ownership relationship with Toyota, could they be developing an inline 6-cylinder engine that could not only be used for, say, a Mazda 6, but when turbocharged could be used to replace the BMW engine used in the Supra? These are just crazy things to think about. But yeah, inline 6-cylinders. I am driving currently this week a Sierra 1500 pickup with an inline diesel 6-cylinder. Inline 6-cylinders are back for Mercedes-Benz, where they were out of that game for about 10 years. BMW never gave it up, but there you go. Another super chat. Feel free to hit that if you like. Hey, Zach, did BMW Canada get pissed at you when you slagged the M5 a little in your review? Do you like the M5? I do like the M5. I just wish that it was more engaging than it is. And it wasn't so much of a slag of the car as that I remember, because I've been doing this a long time, what the old M5s used to be like. Like the high point, in my opinion, for the 5 Series, period, is the E39 M5. And the E39 M5 with the naturally aspirated 400 horsepower V8 engine and a manual transmission, rear-wheel drive that's the car to own. And if you start looking around for a used M5, that's the one that everybody wants. And there's nothing wrong with the current M5. It's just that after a week, I'd be like, okay, it's fast. Yes, there's no question it's the fastest one they've ever made. But fast isn't everything about owning a car. There's sports cars, and then there's sporty cars. So, and then there's fast cars, and then there's cars that are fun to drive when you're not going fast. A perfect example is an MX-5 Miata is a fun car to drive whether you're going slow or you're going moderately fast. It's not a car you want to go really fast in. It's just a great car. And a new M5 is a car that is designed to go really fast. But is it great to drive every day when you're going to work? No, it's kind of boring actually. So sometimes cars with less power that takes more to get out of them are more fun to drive. Do you know what I'm saying? And that old E39 M5 that's the car I would love to have. An E39 M5 manual transmission, V8, free revving engine, 400 horsepower. It was perfect. It wasn't too fast, but man, what a beautiful car to drive. Does that explain it? And no, they weren't mad at me, and I don't give a crap what BMW thinks, because BMW's done nothing for me. In all the years I've been reviewing cars, which is coming up on 30 years, I've been on one BMW media event. One. I go on dozens a year with Audi, Porsche, Mercedes, all of the other German brands, BMW. Hey, I'm a host of a national TV show. I have a media outlet here on YouTube. I used to write weekly articles for newspapers. I had a national radio show. BMW invite me? No, I don't know what I've done wrong. I've only bought 5 of your frickin' cars. I feel better now. All right, just going to keep jumping ahead here. Had a chance to drive the Model 3 recently. Zach, the interior is bland and cheap. It's not a luxury car. You agree? I don't like the look of the car. I don't think it's a good looking car. I don't think the interior is nice. I have zero interest in that car other than the fact that it's quick and the technology is cool. But when it comes to an emotional response to a car, which for me is a big factor. I mean, when I own a car, I got to really want this car. I got to have, here's the perfect example. I can't remember who it said. Was it Bob Lutz who said, you have the right car when every time you walk away, you turn around and look at it, right? You turn around and you go, oh. Like when I owned my air-cooled 911s, there wasn't a time where I walked away where I didn't turn around and look at it and go, man, that is a beautiful, like if I had an E39 M5, I would sit in the garage and just look at the frickin' thing. I'd have an emotional connection to it. A Model 3, it's an appliance. I don't think the design is particularly inspired. There's no trim on the car. I know that's done intentionally, but there's like no trim. You see people adding, they're putting Tesla across the back and stuff like that. They haven't done anything like that. And the interior, I don't want a big eye looking at me the whole time. I don't know. It just, is it just because of my age? I don't know. Like I said, I'm Gen X. It just doesn't do anything for me. Hey, Zach, which vehicles from the Volkswagen ID series will be coming to Canada in the near future? All right, just a quick rundown. The ID3 is going on sale this summer. They're going to start delivering them this summer in Europe. And by the way, I just heard on CNBC, the business channel, they're starting production in Germany, and they're starting some production in Italy of car manufacturing. And Ford has come up with a bracelet that if the workers on the line get within 6 feet of each other, it vibrates. Kind of cool, right? That's a good way to do it. They'll have masks and gloves and have separation, and they'll sterilize the inside of that factory a lot. The one thing you probably don't know about car plants, because you've never been in them, I've been to lots, there are very few people put cars together. It's mostly robots. Final assembly is where they put the car together. That's where they put the rubber seals on the door. That's where they have a robot that puts in the seats and then someone bolts them down. So final assembly, there's more people, but they can stage them out and produce cars slower. So their run rate will be slower. Instead of pumping out a car every 50 or 60 seconds, they might slow it down initially, spread them out, make sure maybe every second carrier that goes by will have a car, and then the one in the middle will be empty. So they're going to get back to producing those cars. So Volkswagen will be making the ID3, and it will go on sale this summer. Later this year, they're going to show the production version of the ID4. So that's a utility that's going to be coming to North America. Think of the new Mustang Mach-E sort of shape, or the Model Y shape. That's kind of what it looks like. They've shown it, but it had camo on it. So they're going to show the production version of it. I'm guessing it's the LA Auto Show for the North American market at the end of this year. And then it'll be going on sale just shortly after. So we're going to get the ID4 first. Now, ID3 has not been confirmed nor denied for the North American market, but it isn't the big focus. In Europe, because they drive much smaller vehicles, it makes perfect sense to come out with the ID3 there first. Then after that, we're going to get probably the bus, the ID Buzz, whatever it's going to be called. But look for ID4 first. If the ID3 is a big hit and there's a lot of demand for it on this side of the Atlantic, they might bring it in. Hey, Zach, do you see a recent spy photo of the next-gen Golf R article said no manual? You think this will be for North America? Okay, I didn't see the spy picture of it. Geez, I hope that's not the case. I mean, if they only bring it with the dual clutch, I mean, it'll be fast. There's no question about that. But no manual, man, it sucks. I mean, I just think it's a shame if that's the case. Now, Howard, this is a spy. This is conjecture. Nothing has been confirmed for the car. I really hope that's not the case. Hey, Zach, thoughts and opinions on the 2019-20 BMW 330i? Why all these 330i questions? Really like the new look and all the tech and features. Would be first non-domestic vehicle. Yeah, it's a great car. I think the new 3 Series, they did a good job. They lowered the price, and they're trying to capture market share, all because of the Tesla Model 3. And I drove the Polestar with my wife Andrea last week, and I talked about the new 330e, the plug-in 3 Series that has about 35 kilometers of electric range. Don't think of it really as an electric car, more as a hybrid with a little bit of extra electric range. The price is really quite low. When you look at those base model cars compared to non-premium brands, they're really sharpening your pencil. So yeah, I have no problem with the car, and I think that BMW is motivated, and they have such powerful financing when it comes to leases, residual values, all that kind of stuff. So please do your homework, go to carcostcanada.com, sign up, and find out, because yeah, you can get some really good deals. And once you're in the BMW grasp, they will do everything to keep you by sweetening the deal when it comes to those leases. Um, are superchargers dead? No. Audi used to use them, and I hear that they are better than turbos because of their linear power delivery. I don't see any new cars with superchargers besides Hellcat. Not true. Not true. The Volvos have superchargers and turbochargers. It's a combination. In Europe, they have a turbo supercharger, and the Volkswagen, some of the TDI engines, I believe, we're not ever going to get those. But no, I don't think superchargers are entirely dead. But yeah, Volvo's using them pretty much exclusively in their engines, and they use a combination of the two. The great thing about superchargers is the supercharger turns with the revolutions of the engine. Turbochargers run on the exhaust gas. So superchargers get rid of that low end lag, and then the turbocharger can switch over. That's the benefit of it. Hey, Armel says, hey, Zach, I wanted to say hi all the way from Kosovo. How cool is that? Love your reviews. Keep it up. Sweet, brother. Thank you for that. That's really cool. I'm really behind. You guys are way down here. Let me just, I'll try and go. I said I was going to go a little faster this time, but I'm sorry. I'm not that fast. Mike W. Hi, Zach. If you had to choose one car, new or used, for around $30,000 for going to work, driving around with kids and everything else, what would it be? It would be a GTI. That's what I would pick. And right around 30 grand too. If not, yeah, it would be a GTI. Paul Lindo, used cars in Quebec are so much cheaper than here in Saskatoon. Why? Should I be concerned about buying a car in Eastern Canada? One word, my friend. Starts with S and ends in T. Salt. The salt factor is so high in Eastern Canada, especially in Quebec. That's the reason why. I have said it. I've said it a million times. If you're looking for the best place to buy a used car in Canada, right here in British Columbia, my friend, you pay more for the car. They have an easy life. They're not driven that far for the most part. The roads are not bad. There's very little salt, if any salt, put down. If I could buy a car from one place, it would be Victoria. Now, there's a bit of a hassle to get it to where you are. I think you live Saskatoon, that's right. But yeah, if you could find a BC car, I will take a BC car over anywhere else in the country. Now, you live in the prairies. You know how beaten up the front of cars get from all the grit they put down in the winter, chips in windows, chipped front cars. British Columbia is your friend. Yale says, who washed their car today? I got my car washed today. Oh, by the way, a little update for you. I mentioned this, and I'm going to do a video on it. I'm just going to close this for a second. Our Cayenne went in for its update today. So where's the picture of it? Did I get rid of it? No, here it is. Our Cayenne is a diesel, TDI. And it went in today for its software update, its second software update. And I got to tell you, they did a good job with the software update. Returning the TDI engine back to more normal operating. They kind of, a lot of people said castrated it a little bit when they did the emissions update to make it compliant. Now they've added a second update to make it better drivability. Love it. So, yeah. So I got my car washed from Porsche Center, Vancouver. So thanks to those guys. Ivan, oh, somebody just said, I love being Ian as a kid. Yeah, Ian Corlett, my former neighbor, now lives in California. He's the guy that had the 912 electric car. If you type in Ian Corlett or Ian Electric 912, you'll find pictures. Lots of articles and videos being done on his car. Hey, Zach, love the show. Mazda Miata RF or soft top, or maybe a used Porsche Boxster. I can't decide. I did a review of the Miata RF, and I went out and I said, I don't like the proportions of the car. I remember the first time I saw it at one of the auto shows. I looked at the car and I said, I don't like the look of it. The roof is too high for the length of the overhangs front and back. It kind of goes like this. I wish they would make a retractable hardtop like they used to have with the previous model. So for me, it would be, if it was between those two, I would say, for my personal taste, not yours, if you like the RF, knock yourself out, I would get the regular convertible. Now you threw in the Boxster in there. For me, that's, you know what? If you're going to go for a Boxster S, I would say Boxster S. If it's a base Boxster and not a Boxster S, stick with the Miata. What happened to all the unsold vehicles from dealers or manufacturers at the end of each calendar year? I heard they get shipped back to the manufacturers and get crushed. Would be interesting to know. No, they don't. They don't do that. All the unsold vehicles from dealers or manufacturers. No, they just keep putting money on the hood to get someone to buy it. And how do you know how much money's on the hood? You go to, oh look, carcostcanada.com, sign up using the promo code MOTORMOUTH, and you will find out a car that is past a calendar year, so now it's 2020, if there's any 2019 sitting on dealers' lots, every month they put a discount on that car. $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. That's how they get rid of all those cars. They do not ship them back and crush them. I will tell you, cars are crushed, but that's not what they do with those cars. The cars that are crushed are what they call early integration vehicles, or when we go to a launch and we get to drive a brand new car that has just been, or not even released to the public yet, they will do early sort of, not prototype, but early production vehicles or pre-production vehicles. So they go down the production line very slowly, and a lot of it is hand assembled, and they're basically assembling the cars in the factory, not for the first time, but these are early pre-production models before they go on sale. Those cars will often get used for dealer training. They will get used for tech training for the mechanics of the car. They will be used by people like me on a test drive. And then often when they're done, they will take them off the road and they will use them. Sometimes they give them to like fire departments to crush and to rip apart, like for life-saving training. And then a lot of them do get crushed. So cars do get crushed, but not cars that are unsold. What are your expectations for the upcoming Mercedes S-Class? Will it yet again be the halo car for the segment? Yeah. The interesting thing is, you know, I don't know how many times I had these online battles with people saying, the Model S outsells the S-Class Mercedes. And I'm like, oh, it's just a pile of crap. First of all, the Model S was one car. They only had one car. So if you wanted a Tesla, you had to buy the Model S. Well, look at sales of Model S now. Model S sales are down to a trickle. And you throw in Model X, it's a little bit more than a trickle. Everybody's buying a Model 3. And what's going to happen to the Model 3 when the Model Y is out in big numbers? The Model 3 sales will go down. And people will go to the Model Y because that's what people want. They want small utility vehicles. So when people used to say, oh, the S-Class is finished because, you know, the Model S is out there. Well, first of all, that would only be in North America because North America was the main market for the Model S initially. And they were outselling the S-Class. But S-Class sales are worldwide. And if you've ever been to one of the major European centers, like when you go to Paris, just off the Champs-Élysées, where they have all those beautiful cafes and fancy hotels and restaurants, there's S-Class parked all over the place. It's the prestige car to have for many wealthy people around the world. And it sells in huge numbers. Nothing comes close to it in the luxury segment. Isn't the 7 Series, isn't the A8, it's S-Class. S-Class is still the top dog. So yeah, it's going to be smoother and quieter and all of the things that S-Class is known for, and it'll still be the best seller worldwide. So somebody's mentioning the Toyota Harrier, which was confirmed, but it was confirmed for the Japanese market, I believe, and not confirmed for North America. We'll have to wait and see. Do you think Volkswagen will bring back the Eurovan, including camper, to North America? I see that VW camper van is sold in Europe called the California. Somebody asked this question before, and I don't believe so. I think that we had the Eurovan before, and it was a very expensive van. By the time they finished in 2003, I think it was, they had the long wheelbase VR6 Eurovan, camperized Westphalia style, and they were $65,000, $70,000. And I remember having dinner with Klaus Bischoff, the head of Volkswagen design at the LA Auto Show years ago, and asked him the same question. He said they had it designed, they had it ready to go, the whole thing, but it was just too expensive. So I don't think they'll bring it here. Okay, I just want to say that I'm up against the clock. Thanks to everybody. Look at my hair. Man, everybody needs a haircut, eh? that Up Against the Clock. Thanks to everybody that contributed to the live chat. Every Sunday, every Tuesday, and every Thursday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific is when we do this. So what's today? Thursday. We'll be back Sunday night at the same time. Thanks to everybody that came online, and we'll speak to you next time. Take care, everybody. Be safe.